Hi, this is Tolec for the Andromeda Council. Welcome. Today is Wednesday, November the 7th, 2018, and welcome back for segment 6 of Deep Disclosure with my guests, M and MsM. MsM, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's been a while, but we have a lot of exciting stuff going on. Certainly hasn't been boring these last few months.
No, very busy for all of us.
Yeah. So we had a lot of great stuff to share with you guys, and we're excited to be doing this again.
Okay.
And a big greetings to everyone. It is the auspicious November that I write and speak so much about. In fact, today is 11/7, which is an ancient Egyptian holiday when the North and South were merged together, which is really a metaphor for the mind and heart becoming one, which is very powerful for this month as we head into the Golden Gate, because that's really what it's all about. The integration of your higher self, lower self, your mind, your heart, the past and future into the present moment.
Well, that's actually a great beginning, because we've chosen the Golden Gate, which is November the 22nd, as our first topic for discussion. So why don't you dive into that and tell people what you're thinking about?
Oh, sure. And of course, for me, it started a long time ago when I first began to see 11:22 on the clock, and it got my attention, much like a lot of people are seeing 11:11. And I proceeded to Egypt, had all these experiences, and it really was all about understanding that there was a calendar, and that calendar marked the Golden Gate and the Silver Gate, and that's when the sun enters the Milky Way, and it's in alignment with the great central sun. And so every November 22nd since then, I've felt the increase of the energy on 111, which we just had happen, the first day of the month, rather.
Yeah.
And so that's really a code. 111 is a code for the next level, the beginning activation. And so we've been integrating a lot of things. Obviously, with the 22nd, as we've been proceeding towards the gate, as the veils have been dropping, we've had a lot of people now, over a couple, maybe 300 around the globe, that have been meditating for 11 minutes on 7:22 p.m. and working with the seal, which is changing many people's lives. And the quickening and acceleration of being tuned into these energies have been really profound for all of us.
Okay. How about we're talking about Golden Gate and 11:22. I know that two of you are talking about plans for a major 11:11 event here. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, because it's November and it's a significant month for us. It's also Diwali today, which is the Indian Festival of Lights. So that's interesting that we're doing this as well.
Okay.
So because it's November, and we're doing 2 activations instead of our usual just 1 activation. So we're going to be doing an activation. We're having a community gathering here in Sedona on 11/11, and we're going to be live streaming that event so that you can actually tune in and hear what's going on and see what's going on and join in our sound healing. So we're going to do an activation and sound healing on 11/11.
When you live stream it, will be live stream YouTube or Facebook?
Yeah, you go to deepdisclosure.com to register for the event, and once you do that, you'll get an email confirmation, and the live stream link, it's a private YouTube channel, will be sent out prior to the event so that you can log in and join us for that.
So I think it's also really cool that remember the 5th of November. Here some of us recall what that is with Anonymous and the masks and the liberation of humanity, and it's really fantastic that we have a lot of momentum going into the end of the year for transformation, and this month really is kicking it off. And we're going to tell you a lot of exciting and interesting things about finance and the galactic updates. But remember, the 5th of November comes to mind because of the liberation and the transformation. And so there's so much happening. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah, the Galactics have referred to this time of the year as the fall of the old regime. So that's one thing to celebrate. And of course, this year the Golden Gate lands on Thanksgiving Day. So we'll be doing a Thanksgiving Golden Gate birthday celebration because it's also my birthday the day before. So lots of things to celebrate in November. We're really excited.
All righty. So, with the wrap up of this discussion of November and 11/11, let's move on to your galactic update. I think the first topic you wanted to address is something called quarantine.
Oh yeah, this is one of the stranger things to come down from the galactic pipeline in the last few months. This actually was channeled a couple months ago, and I thought it was just one of those things where I was like, really? Okay, but I'm just gonna go with it. So they said that they were going to be quarantining our planet. So basically they would be moving us into a dimension where there isn't anything else. And from what I understand, this is something called like a pocket dimension, where there's like a fold in the space-time, and it creates like this pocket where you can exist and kind of come in and out of. And so they said they were going to be quarantining our planet, and they were doing this for a couple of reasons. One was because the roundup had intensified, so they're rounding up some of the deep state people, and because they were receiving either assistance or sympathy from off planet, they wanted to cut them off from that connection. And they said it would be easier to do that if we were quarantined. So they said to the rest of the multiverse, it would look like we were still here. To the rest of the galaxy, it would be like a hologram of us. And so no one would know that we were actually gone. And they said one of the downsides of doing this, one of the things that we might experience, are some communication issues, because our satellites would not be going with us into this pocket dimension. And so I found that to be interesting. And
they further said it was going to shut down the back doors, right? And that it was going to prevent the opposition from tracking everything we were doing, which would be a good time for us to get some stuff done. And then what I found really profound, which we typically see over and over now, is they told us, say at a particular time, and then a week later, we learned through alternative, as well as our intel sources, the alternative media was discussing that, where did these satellites go? Like, they're just gone. And so we were just, again, like, oh my God, this is so incredible that they tell us this stuff before it happens.
Confirmation is always a good thing.
Yeah, it is. And so it validates even the craziest stuff that they tell us. But a lot of people were having physical reactions due to this move, like feeling nauseous or have motion sickness, basically, feeling really dizzy and kind of off balance. And I think that was the physical result of being going through this move. But they also said that something else would happen to us as a people, that when we reemerged, we would be more advanced. We would be different because of having made this journey. And so I've also noticed my abilities enhancing since they announced this.
And when did we come back again? I don't recall. When did they say we officially came back?
I'm not
only
really sure.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
So it was an extraction, a movement, a quarantine, and then a reinsertion back to our original position.
So we were out for like a month and a half, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you guys hear of any, not only people feeling differently, but any erratic behaviors on the part of people during this time? Anything noticeable?
Well, I mean, you're dealing with all these solar flares, and then we had all those planets that were in retrograde. So emotionally, people have been put through a lot this year.
Okay. Yeah, it's been challenging.
Especially this last couple, I think this last month, I think Venus went into retrograde in Scorpio, and so it was like a lot of emotional stuff coming up.
Well said.
Which is good, because one thing they definitely talked about that you can elaborate on is, getting your emotional house in order.
It's a good thing you mentioned the gate and us approaching that and getting ready for it. And in my recent channelings, they have likened the Earth to like a mother giving birth, and passing through this gate is like coming into life. So they want to really stress that this marks us crossing a threshold that allows for things to happen. It allows for us to reach a higher level of consciousness. It doesn't necessarily mean that we wake up on 11/23 and we're living in a heaven reality and that all of our problems are gone.
So you're describing, if you will, an increase in vibrational level, increase in frequency, so that we can take whatever the next steps are? Is that a good way to say it?
Basically, we're like birthing a new way of being, birthing a new world, but we still have to grow that world and nurture it and do the work to raise it into its glory.
Okay. And so while we are still in this 3D physical construct of the world as it is today.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Yes. We were speaking earlier about the importance of a growing peace alliance. Can you address that for me and let me know what of major significance is happening?
Yes, I think it's important to talk about this because I see a lot of this going around about preparing for World War III and it's kind of like fear-mongering. And I thought we were above that in this alternative platform, but apparently we're still dipping into that.
Except that there are people that still turn their televisions on. There's still people who are watching the news and they got all excited about it and worried and afraid. And so
and of course there is an attempt by the opposition to create this reality, but we don't need to put our consciousness into creating that reality either. And the Galactics have been describing to me what they call Peace Alliance, and they first told me that the alliance began between Russia and the United States, and that was prior to Putin and Trump meeting in Helsinki, which other things went on during that are not publicly known. And then they kept describing this peace alliance to me and telling me which countries were joining it. So after Russia and the United States formed an alliance, China joined in. They mentioned Korea as one nation, not as two separate nations joining the alliance. They said Japan would be joining the alliance after those other ones were solidified. And then another Middle Eastern country that's been popular in the news recently has also joined in the Peace Alliance. And so we have been able to confirm some of this with our high-level military contacts.
I take it there's a lot of, if you will, backroom negotiations, meetings that are quietly putting these pieces together?
Yeah, there are a lot of patriots around the globe that are committed to ending war on this planet. And the senseless loss of life and ruining of lives and just exorbitant amount of energy and money that we spend on these wars that are really only benefiting a few.
Trillions and trillions, with T's, trillions of dollars going into war making and the killing of people. If we're going to grow as a global society, it's got to stop.
Absolutely. And
it's important to realize that you can't believe what's in the news. It certainly is fake news, and there are other talks that are happening that are obviously not making it into the news behind the scenes. And so, yes, we really are moving into a very transformative time where peace and unity is the common theme. So it's really exciting.
Well, there have been a lot of people, including clients of Alice & Co., the QHHT practitioner, who've been describing their observations of what they've been seeing regarding a new Earth. MsM, would you like to tackle this topic, or at least begin to take a look at it?
Yeah, I'm just going to share what they've shared with me about it, because there's a lot of different ideas and concepts around this. And I was shown a new Earth by Jesus a while back. He took me to a place where it was basically our Earth, but it was very pristine and clean, and there was no pollution, and the air was really breathable, and the water was crystal clear. It was just a really lovely place, but I kind of I understood that that's what we're creating. And what the Galactics have been talking to me recently about the new Earth is that we're actually already on a new Earth. We're not on the same planet or in the same place where we originated from. So, and you can see evidence of this in where we are currently located in the Milky Way galaxy. So we used to be on one of the tail ends of a spiral on the outer edge of the galaxy, and now we're closer to the center of it. And when they said that this actually is helping us shift our consciousness and make more things possible. Because if you look at it has to do with the density of the light particles. So as you move closer to the center of the Milky Way galaxy, there's more light, there's a higher vibration. And
Right.
so we moved there a couple years ago. We've been there for 2 years already. So we're already on this new Earth, and now we're changing our new Earth into what it's supposed to be. And I don't know if this is exclusive from the new Earth that other people are seeing or describing, but this is something that they've been talking about to me about. We're already on the new Earth. It's a new Earth for all of us, and it's our proximity to the center of the galaxy that is allowing us to raise our consciousness even further.
Do you have a sense that it was a situation where, if you will, we all go to sleep at night, some form of that. And while we're all asleep, I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but they relocated us from this planet to another, or did they essentially, because these kind of like godlet, sub-god kind of beings, they have amazing creational powers. So they could also go, planet Earth, copy, go closer to the center of the galactic core, paste.
Yeah, like
make
a
a new
copy,
planet.
cut, and paste.
Right,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. So, I mean, is that more of what they did? Do you know?
I think so. I think that's how it worked. Or there was another Earth-like planet that was not visible from where we were that we migrated to.
Well, I'm because we have a place like Sedona. It's hard to replicate a Sedona.
It is,
red
but
rocks.
again, like none of this is actually real, right? This is all
Well,
like,
yeah.
So
the hologram.
Yeah.
The big hologram.
So why not? If there's multiple dimensions on the Earth plane currently, why couldn't there be a whole other place?
True.
I mean, everybody's talking about this. Everybody's talking about a new Earth, and
Yeah,
it looks just like ours. So what if it is ours, and we're already on it?
Good point. M, any thoughts about that on your side?
Well, and again, our approach is we're not really leaving anybody behind. There's a tsunami of consciousness that's sweeping the planet. Many
True.
people are waking up. There's an acceleration in heart expansion and all these things. And, many have brought up the topic, how many people do you think are awake on the planet? And even Drunvalo Melchizedek talked about when the scale would tip when there was 50%, we would have critical mass shifting. And so, I mean, I think we're kind of close to that, honestly, because a decade ago when you had some of the studies that were done, you had the cultural creatives, there was 50 million. Those were your, stay-at-home hippie types, make some crafts, and then you had your, another study of a market segment was the lifestyle, I forget the acronym, but eating better, right? Becoming more aware. And so what is awareness and awakening, but, becoming more, in line with your own higher power. And so the more people that are shifting and lifting are tipping this scale, and we manifest the reality we want. Right now we're very focused on don't believe what you see on TV, but check in with the consciousness around you. What are you in a pocket of information experience? Is your family on one side and you're on the other? Bring the unity and the love and watch what happens, because then we have the ability to shift and lift in ways that we haven't even been able to fathom. So I think that the whole topic of New Earth and everything is very interesting, and I think that we've been making dramatic shifts consistently. Each year when we approach this gate, and November itself is so transformative that I think basically we're further along than we realize.
I would agree with that. I think we are further along. And I did write a really nice blog about this New Earth topic on my website, MsM.com, that you can check out, and talking about moving away, like rising above the duality myth and embracing New Earth as a home for all of us. Because it's not exclusive. Nobody is excluded. Basically, anybody, it doesn't matter where you are on your spiritual path, whether you're taking your first steps or you've been jogging for miles. Like, it doesn't matter. Everybody is welcome to participate in the creation of something better if they choose to do so. And so overcoming that idea of the like duality myth is going to help us really ground and root into this new place where we are.
By the way, when I was listing those statistics, right, those lifestyle ones, that was about 100 million people. So right there, if you have 150, that's almost half of our population. Not to say that those lifestylers are, as consciously as aware as anybody else, but the whole point is they could easily be waking up and be far more along.
You're talking about the population here in the U.S.
Right.
Okay.
So we're like 300 million here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
320 million.
Yeah.
Right. So
Got it.
there alone would be half. You know.
That's a far larger number than I would have imagined. Yeah.
If you're consciously aware of what you're eating and your choices, I mean, what are we really talking about? Your heart's awake and you're wanting to take care of yourself, and so we don't really know what level of conscious awareness is required to tip the scale. But again, I feel that we're further than we may actually have considered.
Yeah. I was writing for the first time in months just last night, and interestingly enough, this is the topic that flowed out. It's really about this moment in time of conscious choices and personal decisions and deciding what direction each of us want to go. Is it collaboration, cooperation? Is it competitive? There are all sorts of paths that people are taking.
And one way of noticing this too, if you go down to your regular grocery store, not your Whole Foods, but they're beginning to bring in the organic and the other essential oils and all these other choices.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly, there's a market out there for
yes. For
this,
people are making better choices.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I talked about. Like, this is where our power lies, is making those choices for ourselves, and then the world corrects. The market corrects based on our choices. And so if we stop purchasing things that are poisoning us and making us sick and killing our planet, then they're not going to be available for purchase anymore. We have so much more power than we think, and we're so much farther along than we think. And I think that the birth of this duality myth, or this like separation myth, or new earth myth, or rapture myth that's been going on, comes from so many amazing advanced spiritual beings that came here for the earth, to help the earth, like especially the Pleiadians that came here to help. And it's a lot different here. It's a lot harder, and they're just over it, and they're ready to feel something better. And so that kind of like frustration is, I think, tinting it's putting a filter over reality, because the reality is that we've done some pretty amazing things. What's happening right now is like a modern day miracle. There are so many moving parts to this revolution that we really need to step back and recognize the little victories that we've achieved.
I also think that it will be easier for the global everyone to not only perceive, but to see, to tangibly experience, once the remaining parts of what we call powers that are diminishing, waning, all of the infighting, once that whole mess goes away, people will absolutely feel the difference. They'll feel it, they'll see it. Media will be different.
Yeah.
A lot of violence will go away. I know there's so much that's coming yet.
Definitely.
It's kind of like the final cleaning that hasn't happened yet.
But it's also very helpful and powerful for us to change our perspectives now, instead of waiting for things to get better. It's like we're just going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to make them better. And
that's how it happens. One person at a time. And us helping each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the rising of the dragons, wisdom beings that are helping people on this planet. MsM, talk to me.
Okay, I think a lot of people, because of the reptilian occupation and the experience with the Dracos, might cringe a little bit when they hear about dragons, or even thinking about the old dragon families. But
and as you've indicated, there's a real difference.
There is a difference, and the planetary logos for this planet is a dragon. Nakamara is from the dragon clan. And it's funny, when I first met I was tuning into him. It was before I knew any of this stuff, and I saw a bunch of beings standing behind him, a bunch of really tall beings, a bunch of angels with wings that touched the ceiling. But there were also these beings that had very tall, leathery wings, like dragon wings. And so they're actually they're good. They're symbols of ancient wisdom. They show up of course, in the Asian culture very prominently, but you also see them in Avalon.
Oh yeah.
Dragon shows up everywhere.
Right.
So
The movie Avatar, where the dragon riders, flyers.
Oh
Yeah.
So the Galactics have been saying to me the dragons are rising on this planet. So the dragon energy is rising up, and that I think is a really good thing. And I am a fan of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of you watch it. So
And I take it there's relevance.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's one of the most watched shows in history. And a little bird told me that the Vatican is funding that show. Or one of the funders for that show, which I find interesting.
There's a switch.
Oh yeah, you got a lot of little birdies telling you stuff.
Would they be spiritual birdies? By
Yeah.
chance? Okay.
Yeah.
All
This
right.
isn't a human. This is a human. This is a human source.
Yeah, all right. Go ahead. So Game of Thrones.
So I'm a huge fan of this show, and it parallels a lot of what's happening on the Earth. And so the main character is someone who they refer to as the Mother of Dragons. And the show, over the last 7 seasons, has been an evolution of her rising to power. So we have the rising of the dragon power, we have the rising of the divine feminine coming in.
True.
And in the show, another one interesting parallel is she begins the cleanup basically in the mythical Slaver's Bay, which is representative of our Middle East. And I don't know if you guys remember, like earlier in the year, and when they were taking out they were basically cleaning house in Saudi.
Yes.
So that's where some of this takedown started. And so that parallels the thrones. Excuse me. But another thing that Spirit told me, I always call him Spirit. I call him Galactics to you guys because I think maybe some people will vibrate with that name more. But I always call it Spirit because it's like it's a collective, and it's not just one person. It's not just one gender.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, they're higher dimensional.
Yeah.
Whoever they are.
Yeah.
So keep going.
Spirit.
Right.
So.
The good guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Spirit tells me that a red giant will be passing through our atmosphere, and that it'll be visible to half of the planet. Well, we have a mutual friend here, Joseph P. Anthony, who's an amazing psychic astrologer, and so a lot of times I bounce some of the stuff off of him, and he's able to validate the planetary alignments that are supporting what they're saying, and he told me that there was an asteroid that was coming our way, and that half the planet was going to be able to see it. Well, in the Game of Thrones, when a dragon is born, a red comet flies through the sky to let everyone know that a dragon has been born. So Spirit let me know that this comet or this asteroid, I always get them mixed up, that's passing by is another benchmark for us. It's another like visual benchmark that we've hit a certain point and that we're moving in the right direction. And so, do you have anything to say about dragons, Em? I know you love dragons too.
Well, it's a sign of the time. I really love the correlation to Revelation and end times, which of course is the beginning, but they talk about in the end times all things shall be revealed, and so that's certainly happening too. We're having the wool pulled back on a lot of secret things, aren't we? And the return of the dragons, to me, I call it the return because it's a return of this wisdom, this knowledge, and we're basically being shown many things that we sense were going on that didn't meet the eye, and so it's quite profound that we live in a world where timelines are very malleable. We've seen so many things go on, and the more we learn about them, the more we become empowered, and the more we can choose our own sense of reality. So our perception is strengthened by us collectively aligning with all this information. And to me, it's just akin to the awakening. And so that's about it from this side.
Okay. What about just curiosity on my part? What about the mythological dragons that we've heard of? The dragons of lore in the days of knights in shining armor, etc., etc. The dragons being fire breathing, fire being a means of purification. Is there any relevance to these dragons that you're talking about in fire and purification at this time?
It's possible. Not that I know of, like offhand, but yeah, I mean.
Just a curiosity. Maybe just a metaphor that dragons are fire breathing, so that they're purifying.
Yeah, and so I know that when people come from like the Lyran system, or they're Lyrans, and they're the like the lion like humanoids,
Right.
they'll have a lion spirit animal, a lion totem that comes to
Sure.
them during their life to let them know their origin and supports them when they're here in the earth plane. So the dragon, the mythological creature, is a representation of that. It's like it's your spirit animal from your original place that's here to assist you on your journey here.
Got it.
However, didn't the Galactics tell us in a recent communication that there's going to be the reemergence of extinct species?
Oh yeah, they were talking about that yesterday.
What if one's a dragon?
Yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I know. Well, I did see a saber tooth. I don't know if they were just showing me that.
Around Sedona?
Like, no, in my
Which
head.
would be possible.
In my head.
Well, I haven't thought about her in a while, but Tanath, who's a very wise warrior, if you will, her people are dragon people. Now, they're other dimensional, but there's a whole planet of her people who are dragon people.
I think it's also important that when we talk about this dragon energy rising, to bring up the fact that, yeah, the reptilians and the Dracos are of like the same or original species, but as you can see, there's not all good or all bad in,
Yeah, of course
any,
not. Yeah.
any one thing, right? Like,
Well, it's kind of like there are a lot of humanoids, but they don't all look like us. You know,
Yeah.
some look like cats, some like birds, some like lions, and matter of fact, there's a species from a planet called Yarga. They look like otters. So there's all sorts of human.
cute.
Yeah,
I wanna go there.
there's all sorts of humanoids. So just because a dragon might originally be from a reptilian lineage doesn't
Yeah.
mean
yeah,
it's
just more of it. We're all one. We're just expressing different things.
yeah. In terms of energy and consciousness and awareness, we certainly are. So we're going to talk about a very different, very interesting topic, which has much more of a, I guess, galactic perspective to it. It affects planet Earth, but certainly it's galactic in scope. That of the diplomatic or ambassadorial duties, people who are ambassadors and what's coming. So why don't you, MsM, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so they've been talking to me about contact and how that's going to work in the future. And because of the fact that they made contact with our governments before and that didn't really work out very well, what they've done this time around is that there are incarnated starseeds who
Yes.
are ambassadors to their starseed origins. So these ships have probably been contacting you your whole life and communicating with you. And or what do they call you guys? What do they call them? Experiences?
Experiencers, yeah. People that are contactees, they have like a period of time where there's a lot of contact and then it just pretty much dies off. And the
Yeah.
experiencers are the people who have a whole period of time, there's a lot of contact, and then there's continual contact through the rest of your lives. And
Okay.
that's somebody like me.
So basically, we'll have these ambassadors all around the world that when disclosure finally happens, these will be the ones they make contact through, because they don't want their messages to get twisted. They don't want their technologies to get suppressed and or weaponized. So instead of talking directly to governments, they're going to talk through their ambassadors. And they recently described to me a team of legal minds that have been rising up around the planet who are going to be tapped to write new laws for the globe. And so they showed me something that they referred to as the Scrolls of Justice, and they were these very ornate scrolls that had the universal law written on them. And so basically what they said was these legal minds were going to come together to write this new law. They said the quantum language was the beginning of this new law, and that
Quantum syntax, yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
it was the beginning of this new law, but it wasn't enough, and we need to go farther with it. And the reason that they want our laws to reflect universal laws is that way we can't be tricked into oppression again. There are words within our legal vocabulary or legal language that they really work against us, and so this will help to do that. So
And it's the way those words are also brought together.
yeah,
But if I may comment, this concept is very interesting because within the context of the work of the council, they've already shown me that there's going to be on Earth a joint Earth Council of leading futurists, leading edge minds that will come together and create a dialogue between us and our galactic neighbors, but more specifically, have a more broad approach and broad appeal to the people of Earth. That laws are just and no longer abusive, no longer manipulative.
Yeah, eliminating victimless crimes. Like when the state was allowed to prosecute people as individuals, it really changed things, and it was part of what increased our prison population, and so that kind of stuff has to leave. And what were you going to say, Em, about the quantum
syntax?
Just that it was a step in the right direction, but we needed more. And of course, we are working with the progenitors of that, in steps towards greater sovereignty, and everybody that we're dealing with, supports sovereignty, and there's a deeper, more powerful movement happening behind the scenes for that. And so I thought it was interesting that they would mention it. We're headed in the right direction.
I hadn't heard a reference to it in a few years, so I'm glad to hear it.
I was able to confirm these scrolls of justice with another brilliant friend of ours, Amanda Romania, who's a genius with Egyptian history, and she was talking about how these scrolls had appeared before, and they're in you can see them in some of the hieroglyphs that have been left behind, and that there was basically a justice council, and you had to justify like taking lives, anything that you did that was questionable morally had to be go before the council and be justified. And another interesting thing that I think that they talked about during this too is that what's going on this planet is like monumental, like historically, for the whole multiverse. The transition that we're under right now, and they said a new law had been introduced because of us, that planets are now considered sovereign beings with full protection, so that we can't lose them because of people destroying them or populations destroying them. It's now a violation of universal law to destroy a planet like Maldek or what some of the planets that we've seen go.
Or to harm it in general.
To harm it, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting.
That's a long time coming.
Yeah.
It reminds me of all the places that I go. And every once in a while, even around here, I'll look down and there's paper cups and plastic tops and glass bottles on the ground. I'm like, there ought to be huge fines. I mean, monumental fines for people that dump onto this beautiful planet.
Yeah, it is a beautiful place.
Yeah. And we should, all of us, each one of us should respect our own backyard. This is, this is our world.
We all have to do our part to make it better. Yeah. So that's one interesting thing that I think is going on. And there were a couple other targets that they were talking about. The Alliance is talking about to me that I wanted to mention as well. And one of the organizations they have in their crosshairs, aside from our legal judicial system, is the CDC. There's a lot of upset coming from them about the way that organization has poisoned our people, made them sick.
Jeez.
And so that's one of the targets.
Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Those guys.
We're going to see some of the major networks taking hits. We already saw the loss of the head of CBS. They've indicated that NBC is going to be taking a hit early next year as far as their leadership goes. And another system that is under reform that's going to be majorly transformed is the Child Protective Services. And they said to me this, and I want to kind of get people to open up their hearts to this idea, because it may be coming, that they were going to be asking us to take these children in. So they were going to be doing away with the current system, and they needed to find families for all these kids that were child slaves or being human trafficked through the Child Protective Services. And so that may come to play at some point, where we are asked in our hearts.
Those children, teenagers, young women, all of them, they're going to need some serious emotional counseling. They're going to need some help.
Yeah, it's some of them were born into slavery, They don't know any lives other than that.
Right.
I saw there was a woman that appeared on the Dr. Phil show of all places who was one of these women that were born into slavery. She was born into slavery, and so she didn't know any other life aside from this one. And you can just tell that there's a lot that needs to be done to kind of reprogram these individuals to have healthy lives.
Right, and so that she can learn it's okay for her to be a unique, sovereign human on this world and have thoughts of her own and do the things that she wants to do.
That was a really powerful episode, and I really like Dr. Phil because I love the way that he talks with people, and he does some interesting stuff, and obviously he does a lot of vetting when he puts a story on air. So
okay.
You know
that makes sense.
When this goes on air, like he's not going to really put his neck on the line for some human trafficking story if he hasn't verified that it's true. And so if anybody hasn't seen that, you can watch it on YouTube. Just kind of get a sense for what we're dealing with, especially those of you who are planning, who have downloaded the message from Spirit to create the healing centers to help these people once they're out of this slavery system. I think it would be a good thing to watch just to see what we're dealing with, see where these people are emotionally.
So, MsM, in preparing for this particular episode that we're in right now, you've talked about the grand experiment. Can you share some more with me about that, please?
Yeah. So recently, I became interested in migratory patterns and the origin of humans, and I had my DNA analyzed. And a lot of people are afraid to do this, to go on like Ancestry and do it. But let me tell you, they've collected your DNA a long time ago, so there's no.
So let me guess, you're not from Norway or Sweden?
I am.
No.
Yes. So I did.
No.
I did this. That's what I'm gonna. So I did this ancestry thing, and I discovered that I was part of this haplogroup X. Well, haplogroup X has a lot of subsets, and they pop up all over the globe. But this particular haplogroup is connected. Its roots go all the way back to Atlantis, and another person that you may know that's part of one of these haplogroups is Michael Lee Hill. He talks about that quite a bit. So. So I was looking at a map. Now I'm very multicultural in my ethnicity and my makeup. I have DNA from like almost every inhabited continent of the globe. And so I was researching these haplogroups, and I saw that there was a migratory pattern that you could see from leaving from Israel all the way down across the bottom of the Mediterranean, around to northern Africa, and then up into in northern Africa and around that area through the Middle East and up into not Middle East, but
that would be Europe,
up through Europe into northern Europe. And through Scotland, Ireland, England, Wales, and then into the Scandinavian countries. And then you also see it coming from Central South America all the way up to North America. And these are like the native tribes that are carrying this haplogroup. And so I don't know. I get drawn to these things because they're trying to teach me something. They're trying to show me something. Okay. And so I woke up in the middle of the night, and they said, "You are part of a grand experiment. And America is a melting pot for a reason. And it's the epicenter of the golden age for a reason. And it's that all these different places where you can watch these migratory patterns of human were seeded by different alien races. And through the generations, we have integrated all those different DNAs into our physical bodies. And so the people that are living in the States right now are like tomorrow people that have all of this alien DNA in one vessel. And so they said, we are the fulfillment of a prophecy. The natives talk about this. I think they call it the rainbow prophecy. And we are like the culmination of thousands of years of evolution and experimenting. And so they also said that it's important to recognize that not all of the aliens that seeded you were humanoid or the same.
True.
We're all different, but we're all one. And so, like, we know we have a reptilian part of our brain that is part of us, that came from our reptilian ancestors that seeded us. And so there's no reason for us to push the karmic wheel or demand punishment for those we feel have committed injustices, because the karmic wheel is going to turn regardless. And so, because the universe demands balance, so whatever it's the pendulum will swing from one direction to the next, and it always will do that. And so we should focus more on finding love, finding compassion, finding forgiveness in our hearts, than needing to be the punishers of these people
collaboration, helping
who
others.
are really us, who just kind of took a left turn somewhere and made some wrong choices. So I thought it was really, I don't know, interesting, because we're everything. It's this whole message that we are one.
It's a really good message.
Yeah,
and especially in terms of how we treat each other on a moment by moment basis. Really, really important.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting topic. I was adopted, and I'm still waiting for my DNA report. So we'll see how that comes out.
You can come back and they go, "You're from off planet," and you're going to go, "No kidding."
Yeah.
So, MsM, you were telling me that you've had some really interesting information come forward recently in some of the people that you've been doing some readings on, and some direct correlations between those people, what they have said, and some of Allison Coe's private clients. So tell me about that, please.
So I get information. I basically, one of the reasons why I do readings for people, aside from just enjoying helping people, is that it allows me to spend more time in the field. So I'm spending a few hours in the field every day doing these, and I get information from people. I pull information off of them. And so I was at the Great Awakening, which I spoke at your event there, and Allison Coe also presented, and she was a really lovely woman and very bright light. And
for a moment, I'll stop you. I will tell you that both of you had a rapt crowd. They were all sitting on their chairs. You're up on stage. They were listening. They were paying attention. Did just as a follow-up, did you get to meet in person for the first time some people who you've been talking to for months?
I got to meet some people that I had done readings for, and people that were following. A large part of the audience was, I'd say, like 85% of the audience or more had been listening to Deep Disclosure.
Good.
Because we asked, we like to get a sense of that in the beginning, just to know want to tailor what we're talking about. People have already heard it, or just to know where everybody is.
I also asked a question at the very beginning of the conference. I'm like, okay, how many of you flew in from around the country? 90% of the people in that room had flown in from all across the U.S. We also had somebody from South Africa. Somebody from the Netherlands was there. We had somebody from
Australia.
There was a gentleman from Australia that was there. They're pretty typically I have global attendees, but so continue your story.
So I got to watch Allison's presentation, which was great, and it was very validating, because, of course, I tell you guys the stuff that Spirit tells me in the readings with you guys is sometimes unbelievable, and so to hear,
because you're just asking questions,
to hear it like paralleled with what people are saying in their sessions with her was actually really validating, because they often are talking about, they'll tell me, like, somebody asks me, like, well, what am I here doing? And I'm like, well, okay, you're working the earth grid, and you're anchoring in the light energies, and you've been placed in this region for a purpose, and they need you to stay there, and it's helping to block a pole shift from happening, and your work is really important. Or the paintings that you're doing are channeled from a different dimension, and they have a frequency, and you need to keep putting your art out to people, or you need to tell these stories from other dimensions. You need to write that book. People need to read it. And so these things are kind of kooky, right? But
and I'm sure you get some people who walk away going, they're scratching their heads, and other people will probably walk away going, wow, I need to make changes. I need to start living the life I'm supposed to live.
Or feeling very validated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because they're already pointing in that direction.
They had a feeling, and it's just like
all right.
It's a seconding, it's a validation, just like me hearing these other people saying this
Good
through their
point.
sessions with her is a validation that the information that's coming through is accurate, the feelings that we're having, the intuition that's guiding us is accurate. And that's one of the things that, as far as the creation part, a lot of people ask me about, they want to know how to best like meditate or expand themselves spiritually. And a lot of people are having issues going into like silent meditation, and they're not feeling a connection there. And there's a reason for that. And Spirit has been telling me this over and over again, through these clients, that we are not meant to sit in silence and isolation this time around. We are meant to receive in motion, and we are meant to receive through creation. And so going out and walking the land is a way to receive.
Absolutely.
Making art is a way to receive. And they're encouraging us to do more of the creative stuff because we're embracing our roles as creator beings when we do that. And so when you're embracing your role as a creator being, you're going to receive a lot more information, a lot more stuff coming to you. So that's one of the things that they're asking us to do more. I keep having these soul groups come to me in waves. So 1 week it'll all be Viking people, and then I have like all the people from Avalon, and then all the dragon people, and so I got a huge group coming to me, and it was funny because most of them were Latin American males that they were showing me were worshipers of this sun god that was around, the Mayan times and the Aztec times, and that it was really important for these people to be in the sun, and that it was also really important for them to consume monatomic gold or ormus. That was a nutrient that their body needed because of their connection to the sun and their past lives worshiping the sun. And so that was an interesting one. I keep getting people coming to me from the Secret Space program, which I find very interesting. For somehow I'm able to bypass the memory blocks because I'm remote viewing the Akashic when I'm looking at these people. So even though there's a physical memory block in place, that I'm able to bypass it and get information off of them. And so I keep getting these people coming to me, and I'm doing energy work on them as well, like balancing the brain hemispheres or trying to remove the blocks that are in there so that they can integrate with more of their memories. And so that's another interesting thing that has popped up.
So now when you said you keep getting people from the Secret Space program, are you talking about those who participated and they've given up their organic bodies, their earth human bodies, and they've moved on and they're now just in spirit?
No, these are people that have been part of the Secret Space program doing 20 and backs.
Oh, okay.
I've had people that were stationed on the moon, people that were stationed on Mars.
Okay.
I had one really interesting reading just last week.
And these are private planes?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
This young gentleman had spent 2 lives on the moon, one in this lifetime and one in his previous lifetime, where he was taken during the Korean War by a Nazi occupation that was had a moon base, and he lived out his remaining days on the moon there, and then died and reincarnated. And was taken again into the programs in this lifetime. So it's really strange stuff, but it's I don't know. They just keep coming. I think all the information that's out there now, even the stuff with, like, obviously with Corey Good and Emily Smith and this new Jason Rice guy that's come forward, it's triggering a lot of these memories for people. And so once the memories start to get triggered, then they start seeking answers.
Right, and it floods too.
And so if a lot of them come to me, they don't know that this is why they're coming. But my guides and I have developed a shorthand that let me know that they've served in these programs, and then we'll go deeper into what their roles were. And I didn't realize it. Well, I guess it's not really that common, but there are obviously hundreds of thousands of people that have been taken over over the last few decades into these programs. So
I'll be having Naira Isley, who lives in Colorado, here in March for a panel discussion that I'm holding called First Open Contact. And she was part of the space program, as a lot of people in the military were. Fascinating story, and things that were done without their permission. You know,
Yeah.
and it's the path to healing is an interesting journey for
Well,
them.
another interesting that I uncovered through these sessions is that there are people who were aware of the programs and incarnated with the purpose of going in as spies for the alliance groups
Ah,
to
okay.
find out what was going on in these programs, to know all their protocols. And so a lot of people that were in the secret space program are also contactees or experiencers for these different starseed groups that sent them in to begin with. So, so they're continuing to have contact throughout the rest of their lives, even though it's not through the government anymore. Well, that's another interesting aspect of it. So, um, I I work with a couple of guides. A few of my guides are healers, um, Hippocrates, Emotep,
Hmm.
and Mary Magdalene. They're healers, so I work as a medical intuitive, and what that means is they just use my body to show me how somebody may have passed away or something that would identify them from their life. They also use my body to show me things that are going on inside your body. And
Right.
so and when they talk about living people, they'll give me information about how to cure it or what's causing the problem so we can get rid of it. And that's been really interesting. I've had the opportunity to work with some doctors and diagnosing patients with mystery illnesses, and I've made some really significant connections into the illnesses that people are carrying around the planet. It led me to the work of Anthony Williams, the medical medium,
Okay.
whose stuff I absolutely um, love and definitely believe it to be accurate based on what Spirit's been showing me.
Are you seeing instances of markers, if you will, that have been placed on people's DNA, passed down through lifetimes, or given to them by relatives, as a means to learn, or
Yeah, well, they're one of the elements of healing these things is identifying the emotional attachment and the past life attachment
right?
that may be causing the problem. So we have like markers in our DNA that make us maybe predisposed to certain developing certain illnesses while we're here. But the really great thing to know is that it's more environmental than anything, and so you can change and heal yourself by changing your environment,
Lifestyle choices,
lifestyle.
eating.
Yeah,
Sure.
a lot. When they're telling me how to heal this stuff, they're talking about supplements, herbal supplements, and vegan diets. And so they're never saying to me go to the doctor and get a pharmaceutical solution, because it's never the solution.
No.
And so I find that this is coming up more and more now, and I'm having a better understanding of how all of these illnesses are related, because people really need to focus on healing their bodies so that they can focus on their spiritual path,
Right.
because it's a major distraction, and we shouldn't be walking around in pain
That's right.
and sick and suffering when we can heal ourselves. And so that's one thing that's been showing up quite a bit. I've had I also do consulting on criminal cases, so I've done a lot of homicide cases in the last few months, helping as a consultant with those, and that I find to be very interesting. That they just keep coming. They come to you in waves.
Wow, fascinating.
One of the things that I think is really important to note is that Spirit keeps talking through a number of people about an economic boom that's coming in 2019. And so specifically like mid 2019, it really taking off. They said it's going to affect the housing market, that the housing market is going to go up, real estate will go up, but it's not a false inflation this time. They've said that there was going to be an increase in the value of precious metals having to do with cryptocurrencies that are backed with assets.
No surprise there.
And like physical currencies that are also backed with assets.
Right.
So they said that was going to be happening. They said Canada was going to be freed from the crown. So I was doing a reading for a lovely Canadian woman, and they said that their current president, or they have a prime minister.
Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Yes.
Their prime minister was going to face some sort of scandal and that he wouldn't be reelected.
Wow.
We'll see if that happens, because these politicians seem to have 9 lives. But they
know.
said that also that Canada for the first time would be free of crown rule, and
That's an
it
amazing
would be its
step.
own sovereign nation. And so
Yeah.
that was going to actually help, and that the next leader of Canada would be more sympathetic to the alliance. So the peace alliance that's growing in the country, the alliance that's building. So that I found really interesting. I had to have a bunch of people come to me from Venezuela, like within the same week, and they were talking about the repair of their economic system, and it having to do with a cryptocurrency and possible backing by Spanish gold. That had been recovered, and so that was one of the things. And the great thing is that we're able to validate this stuff with our agency and military people or people that are working on this stuff firsthand. So a lot of this has been.
You would get this if you a bucket of information, and then talk to some of your own private contacts, and they go, "Oh yeah, this here, check."
Yeah, and the time is closing in. Like it was a week, say, or a month even prior, where they would tell us something, and then we'd have some evidence or confirmation from our sources. And the most recent one was they said, watch the news for something to do with security. And 3 days later, they were saying that Hillary's clearances were being revoked, security clearance.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the time is shortening on what we're being told and when it happens. So that's exciting.
Yeah, they mentioned they call Trump and Putin their golden boys, and and so there was talking about the progress that they were making, and of course they're coming together again on 11/11 to meet and further the peace alliance. So that's interesting. There was one other thing that I found interesting too, because a lot of people talk about fractals on the planet, and M and I talk about this as like, well, M taught me this creation story about the Elohim, the original creator beings, and how we're all archetypes of these original beings walking around on the planet. Well, a while back, Spirit had told me, or the Galactics told me, that they were going to have some of them walk in. The ones that chose to stay up on ship during the first part of this phase.
Okay.
And help from above, we're now walking into bodies on the planet. And basically, this is different than
So going on right now.
Yeah.
So a number of new walk-ins.
Yeah, this is different from a typical walk-in.
Because there's no walkout.
Yeah, there's no walkout. So what this is...
it's braided. They're braided.
It's a braid. It's a soul braid.
Yes.
But it's not a permanent braiding. So this is what they do. They're selecting individuals that are their archetypes, and
so the braiding is
and
easier.
the person, so they pick one of the people that are their archetypes, and this person goes through quickening, a massive acceleration in consciousness, and then once that quickening occurs and contacts begins from other dimensions, from them on the other side, then they walk into this host body. Now the host body, once it receives the braid with its higher self, still has to work to maintain it. So if you aren't doing the work spiritually, emotionally, physically to hold this higher dimensional energy within your physical frame, it's going to leave you and find another vessel to walk into. And so that's something that's been going on. So these other familiar faces that we know who've been here before are walking in now to join on with the Earth Alliance and complete the job, complete the rebuild process.
That kind of makes sense for all of us who know each other. When M was in Whole Foods with me just a few hours ago, and there's Stands with Bear and Lightstar sitting next door, and there's this woman that I had just met who's actually a medical intuitive, just like you. Her name is Robin. She's got a school. She had moved here from Boulder. And after about just 3 or 4 minutes of observing all of us, she said, "Do you all know each other here?" And I think the point really is that one of the reasons that we've decided to come here to this greater, beautiful Sedona area is that we've known each other for a long time. We chose in this place as a collaborative work spot because it's a very special space. Very special place. Those words in this country. I mean, every time I drive up here, I go, oh, that's right, I live here.
It never gets old.
Yeah,
right?
no, it doesn't. The beautiful, the entranceway to the beautiful red rocks coming up 89A.
Yeah.
It's a very, very special place. But this energy of our collaborative effort, when we, for you and your Golden Seven Seal Summit conference that you held, and me with my New Awakening conference that we held, to see all of those people together, to see all those smiling faces, I'm like, these people are all here because they want to be here. They feel the recognition of family and friends they haven't seen in a while, kind of thing.
Yeah, we love
Yeah.
we feel like our events are more like reunions.
Yeah, they do. They do. And as I mentioned recently, it's like we have these sort of new brother and sisterhoods that are sort of reestablished. They don't know each other, but yet they do vibrationally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's certainly a familiarity.
More and more people keep showing up, yeah, just like they said they would. The Galactics have been indicating this is the new spiritual mecca, and
Yes.
it's been wonderful, meeting all these people that you feel so connected to and familiar. So, and by the way, on this topic of soul braiding, I had a couple upgrades or whatever you want to call these, some probably 25 plus years ago. I had a few additions, braids, and it was a very interesting process. And I know that, matching frequencies is very important in the process. And so the seventh seal activator is probably a good tool to have if you're being considered, because it accelerates everything and causes all your centers and bodies to come into greater alignment so that you're in a higher awareness for these things to occur.
Will it, if people have closed off chakra centers or energy points in their bodies, will the seal kind of like
it
pop
does. It does. It absolutely. Okay. Yeah, it works with whatever's closed and opens it so that the crown ultimately will become fully open. And I just released another version of it that's an upgraded version. It's got more frequencies, and I'll be releasing more videos that describe all this kind of stuff. For example, the Saint Germain codes, which I've been deciphering, and I talk about, in my material more and more. But with everything else that we're doing, it's a bit challenging to stay up half the night and try to put together a video, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, and this is great. Like when they're talking about, or when M's talking about exposing yourself to the seal, this is coming through in the readings too. They're saying, expose yourself to sacred geometry, expose yourself to sound frequencies, start toning, start clearing these your voices out so that you can be vessels, start grounding yourself. Like all these things are going to help you really embody your full spiritual self.
We're touching on a lot of topics that are fascinating to all three of us. Where we haven't gone yet is what's next for you guys. You had a very successful summer here with your 7th Summit Conference. Very well attended. I saw a lot of smiling faces. What's next for you guys publicly? Do you have any immediate plans, near-term future plans publicly in the area?
No, we're just so focused on getting what you're going to hear in the next segment. Our next section of this segment is what's going on financially. We've really been, very
hyper-focused.
Hyper-focused and concerned with getting things done, and especially now that the midterm elections have happened, we're going to be able to do some things that we couldn't previously do. So we'll address that next.
All right, super. Thank you. So, Em, when I first got here, you said that there's a considerable amount of things going on regarding updates in the financial world. You want to bring everybody up to date in terms of what you've learned recently?
Yeah, there's been a lot happening. Some very exciting things. For example, my former partner that was the head of the new banking system, where I did that work behind the scenes for the last, 6 years ago, it was for a decade, is back, and he's joined our team, and so we're really excited about that. And that's perfect timing because there's many, many wonderful things happening where we are instrumental and involved in For one example would be the new gold-backed cash. There are cargo containers in 97 countries that have this new colorful currency that has been printed. It's USD, and a lot of people have said, "Oh, when I've mentioned this privately, they're saying, is that already in use in those countries?" No, it's
No.
not. It's going to be put into the central bank and attached to the gold that's been allocated by the elders, and then those serial numbers will be made live. And
I've heard that these bills look similar to the new hundreds that were issued recently. It's got a Liberty Bell in gold.
similar, yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And they're more colorful.
Right.
And so that's exciting because we're in talks with about 6 central banks to do these maneuvers. And of course, those are in countries that we're more friendly with right now.
Okay.
And because this is really going to be a boon to help those companies as much, countries rather, as much as one of the other items that I wanted to talk about that will help is there are SKRs, gold, safekeeping receipts for gold from elders that are available, much like what was done in the past when all of this gold was flown to these central banks. There was leases that you could utilize this to underwrite your currency and support your country. And so,
And are these SKRs issued by current standing banks, or who are they issued by?
well, they're from the elders, and so I don't know exactly which banks they're from. I haven't actually
Okay.
seen one. I'm in the process of negotiating the entry to a couple countries,
Okay.
and so that isn't my exact position in these matters. And so the other thing that we're doing, our team is involved with cryptocurrency companies, and those are going to also be implemented as new solutions. So when there's a lot of people out there talking about the new quantum banking system, our intel says that doesn't exactly exist. We are building it, and we know we have the authority, as we've said all along through these shows, that we can anticipate that coming through us. And because of the relationships that we have with the elders and the backing and everything, that is something that we are planning. And we are working with multiple cryptocurrency companies. And while I'm under an NDA with some of them, I can't, tell you about all the advanced technology, but they're far more advanced than the normal currency companies that we are, hearing about in the news. This is next gen stuff. And in fact, we're in talks with the U.S. Treasury to be the reserve cryptocurrency for this country.
And if I remember correctly,
Mhm.
you can correct me if I'm wrong, please. This cryptocurrency of choice that you'll be using will be backed by a number of hard assets,
Exactly.
gold, oil,
Mhm.
natural gas, a few other things.
I'm involved with another cryptocurrency company that, and I'll tell you the names of these as the timing is right.
Okay.
That is a basket of natural reserve currency. I mean,
Now,
resources that are
resources.
supporting those currencies.
Sure.
Mhm.
And that makes sense.
And so, we expect to be able to come back maybe next month sometime and, give you more information. We're also open to being on other programs as people might desire to have us. We've been on a few other shows.
Great.
And so we're open to doing that if you want to reach out to us. Let's see, what else do I have on my list here? We're also creating a hybrid debt program for countries that is going to be purchasing the debt of the country. And, there's ways that we're going to do that by putting those instruments behind a new kind of hybrid MTN, medium term note. And part of that is going to cause a credit line to be created and go into a trade. These trading programs are real. They do generate large sums of money, and we're going to basically put a third of it into the country and their projects, and put a third into a sinking fund so that it can continue to grow and expand, and another third will be paying for more debt, to take down more debt and retire it. And we also have a program like this that we'd like to bring to the United States to absolve some of its debt, mortgage debt, different kinds of RAMIC type debt. And let's see.
Does this tie in with technology at all in terms of things you're planning to release sometime in the future?
Absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of advanced technology, and that's a good point too, because we are beginning to also review the submissions that we have and to prioritize them this month because, we know that a lot of the elder funds are ready to be released. And, so the time is now where, again, we had mentioned early on in our segments that there needed to be the proper climate for these things to occur, right? And so
Sure.
the cleaning of the house and making the White House as white as possible, for example. And that's not a racial thing. This is the light. Okay, this is the white hat, and so we are aligned and working behind the scenes very closely with partners that will enable us to implement many things, and we're working on bringing funds into this country right now. But again, we wouldn't attempt it until now because there's a lot of things doors that are opening because of the climate.
So, we've been talking at a higher global level about what you've been learning, what you've been dealing with in terms of global finance. Now we're going to bring it to the level of the individual person, which is why a lot of you are listening. MsM, would you please share with people what they can expect next in terms of what their process should be with you, with your organization, just what's required and the overall sense of where you're going in terms of your own efforts.
Yeah, so I want to reiterate something that Em was saying about this happening on a global scale. So it's happening on a global scale from governments down, and through those avenues and those relationships, we're making funds available for humanitarian projects that we'll be overseeing. And so it's very important, if you haven't already, to go to our website and register for our newsletter so that you
Which is?
At deepdisclosure.com.
Thank you. Okay.
From there, you'll get updates about what we're doing and prompts for when you need to do things. We're currently working on a questionnaire to learn more about people's projects. So there's a link in Deep Disclosure for project funding that will take you to our database, Global Net Cloud, where you can create a profile, whether you are submitting a project of your own or you're creating a profile that is describing your skill sets that you can contribute to existing projects.
Right. Well, and as we were talking about this in preparation for this piece, you made it an important point that even those people who don't necessarily have projects, there's some people out there who are still going to want to contribute.
Yes.
In a way that they can be a valuable participant.
Yeah, so our database is a networking tool to help you find projects that you can assist in. So I want it to be very clear that project funding or all the financial stuff that's happening right now is based on project funding and not on any kind of debt forgiveness for individuals.
Okay.
So if you're not doing a project or participating in a project that exists, there's not funding coming for you. We're not sending out checks to people just to forgive their debts or to make their lives easier, though we would love to do that for everybody. It's just not going to solve the problems on the global scale that we're looking to solve. We need to reform the systems. We need to reform the financial system, the government, the education, the judicial systems, and all that's going to happen on a global scale, and that's how we're going to be able to help the 7.5 billion people that are here. So
because there's certain infrastructure issues that need to be addressed.
Exactly.
But what you are saying, if I hear you correctly, is there are going to be small, medium, large size projects which need the help of people who have different disciplines, different skills that can contribute.
Yes, and so
so that's where the profile is important.
That's why the profile is important, because you can put your skills into the database and we can help place you with a project that needs you to thrive. So that's really another aspect of what we're doing. And so once the questionnaires are put out to all of you who have submitted projects, they'll be returned. We'll go over them. We'll prioritize the projects, and then someone will be contacting you to do the initial interview to see if you have a viable project and or what you need to make this project thrive.
So here we are after a really fascinating conversation. I'm glad we all came together after that, 3 or 4 month hiatus. There's been a lot going on in your lives and in my life certainly as well. So something called the wave, and whatever other topics that you want to talk about as we wrap the end of segment 6 up.
Yeah, let's talk about that wave. We've mentioned it before.
Hmm.
I've mentioned it before. The Spirit has talked about this massive solar event that is
Energy and energies,
an
plural.
energy, that affects our planet. I know Allison has talked about this as well, and you know the date is not really set in stone. I don't know exactly when it's supposed to come, because remember the galactic beings and ascended beings that we're talking to don't experience time the same way we do. So that's why oftentimes these things are off with
That's
timing.
right. Yeah.
So, but it's important to know that it's coming.
And remember, waves are big.
Yeah.
Right. It's not an instant wave.
Yeah, it's been an increase. So
Yeah.
so they keep talking about this thing, and recently they told me that, well, they've shown me this before. There's a bunch of ships around our planet that are creating a grid.
That's correct.
That are creating a shield to.
That's correct. Yep.
To block this massive wave from coming in, or filter it into a more unified energy that can be absorbed more easily. But it's growing in momentum to the point that they are having trouble holding it back. And so at some point, this thing is just going to be unleashed. And they've talked about 3 days of darkness, and they've talked about basically our sun dying out and a new sun being born. And I think this is the darkness that they're discussing. I'm not really sure how this takes place.
I've consistently heard that our sun is in its own transformation. It will go from being a yellow-white sun to a higher vibrational blue-white sun. So maybe there's a moment where it has no color at all. You know, it's got to make that.
Yeah, it's like some sort of transition. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it physically looks like, and I don't think anybody knows. Really, I think we can speculate and just be kind to each other as we try to figure this out.
What we don't know is when.
But the important part about what's happening with this wave is that when it hits us, some things are going to happen.
Okay.
So one of the things that they mentioned was viruses being wiped out that can't survive in this UV wave that comes along, especially those created by the CDC, if not all of them that were created by the CDC. So
don't get me going.
That's one of the things that will happen. Another thing that will happen is it kind of forces people into like a midlife life review. And I talk about this because people, ask me about death and what happens when you cross over. And this is the way that I've understood it, is that you cross over, and on the other side, you go through this life review that you're conducting for yourself. But the interesting part of this life review is that when we live here in this third dimensional reality, we have the veil of illusion in place. So we're able to be dishonest, and we're able to be dishonest with ourselves. But when you cross over to the other side, you don't have that luxury anymore. So you really have to get like a true, honest reflection of the scales of how many pearls you put on the good side. And
good point.
Yeah. So that happens, and that's why it's better to work through your emotional stuff while you're here, so that you're not facing it on the other side. But what's going to happen with this wave is basically a midlife life review that you go through on the planet. So they're encouraging people to really get your emotional house in order. Look at yourself honestly, without fear, with love and compassion. Accept where you are, and if there are things out of balance, take care of them.
Yeah. And accept where you've been and go, you know what? It's part of the total human life experience.
Yes. Forgive yourself. Have love for yourself.
Absolutely.
And agree to do better. And that's how we rise above this life review that's happening for us. So the more you do now, the easier it's going to be when this happens. And the other aspect of it is start living your purpose. Start going out there and doing.
Yeah.
So many people tell me, I want to do this and this, but I need a house, I need a car, I need this and that. I need Spirit to give all these things to me before I will go out and do my job. And that's just not how it works. That's just, it doesn't work that way.
I can attest to that.
You have
to step forward in faith and belief of yourself.
Exactly.
Even if you don't know what you're capable of, have the dreams, have the desires, have the wishes, and make them real. Take actions. You're looking at me. Go ahead, jump in here.
Well, that's because doing causes an attraction. Allison also talked about the ripple, and I don't mean the blue ripple or the red wave. This is the unity consciousness.
The energetic
tsunami. This
energetic
tsunami, is such a thing that if you go out there and do whatever it is, it's going to be magnified and amplified by the universe. This wave of consciousness that's showing up, it will envelop you, and your own ability to manifest will be amplified, like by when Allison said, just put your ripple out there, put your video out there. Look what we did with Deep Disclosure. We just put it out there, and, the vortex of positive thinking and the ability to know what's up and really make a difference has been happening more and more for everybody.
Sure.
Both from readings that MsM has done and exposure to the seventh seal material, things are changing, but it's a choice away. You just need to step up, and it'll show up as you do.
Yeah,
I definitely want to encourage people to reach out and join the community here. That's why we did this initially. This is why we decided to do this show, is that we wanted to find our soul family, our tribe that was out there working on their pieces of the puzzle and come together for this new unity timeline. And that is already happening. Our IT guy is someone who listened to our show and then scheduled a reading with me and then flew out to meet us and then moved out here to work with us. And so it's happening. We have multiple people that have been contributing. We got that questionnaire from a lovely couple in Las Vegas that's doing amazing humanitarian works, and they came to us to help us with our process of project funding. We have another amazing couple from Texas that's been helping with planning events out here. So people are coming, they're integrating into what we're doing. We would love for you to reach out to us and really become part of the movement, really become part of the community. And
I think that's probably a good way to wrap up this final piece. Why don't you tell people how best to get in touch with you, MsM?
You can visit my website, divinemsm.com. And I've just recently updated it with the help of our IT guy. And so there's some new packages, new services on there, and I'm currently working on an aromatherapy line. The Divine MsM boutique will be open soon.
Good for you.
With different products that I've developed. Like I make these, speaking of creating, I do a lot of different stuff. So I'm a painter, and I've made these handmade smudge wands.
Okay.
So you can get a little smudging kit, and I make these flower crowns. So you can purchase all of these through the Divine MsM boutique, and you can also request a reading with me.
Okay. Final words. And how can people reach you?
Sure. Well, it's all about creativity. We all have a unique part to contribute. And, as we do away with money, because that is coming, right? Whether we turn on a replicator or not, as we stair-step towards more of a galactic system, we all have our services, we all have our creativity that we will still have a need to do an exchange of some kind. And so, having said that, my contribution, you can check out my videos at YouTube, just do /Methuselah Imhotep, or go to 7sealcodes.com. And if you want to write me, just shoot me an email at germainetrust@gmail.com.
All righty.
I do respond.
Oh, yes, you do. MsM, I see you're trying to get my attention. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say one last thing before we sign off, and that I want to recognize all of you as light workers and way showers. And I want to implore you on behalf of the Galactics and the Earth Alliance to please remember to be kind.
I also want to send a thank you to our team. I'm so proud. You know, we've all worked so hard and so much overtime in working on the financial piece, and I'm just so grateful, and we'll be really pleased really soon. I'm just thrilled with what's happening, and I'm so grateful for all the people that have been meditating on the 22nd, and that crystalline grid that's being supercharged with our expanded consciousness is going to really amp us up through the gate. So we'll see you soon and talk with you more later.
So on behalf of Tolec for Transformational Shift Events and the Andromeda Council, before I go, for any and all of those of you who live in the greater Sedona area, we get together once every month at the Sedona Community Center on a Friday night. This month it's taking place on November the 16th. And Rion and Alexander will be speaking, and the name of our monthly meeting is called Sedona Close Encounters. So if you don't know about us, please feel free to come and join us at about 6:45 Friday night of next week. So, Ms.
I want to
M,
speak there next. I want to, another time. I want to bring a
oh
little
yeah,
more
we'll bring you back.
information about
Sure.
some of the Saint Germain code. So yeah,
Okay.
look forward to it.
Absolutely. And matter of fact, we had a really good turnout when you guys did your thing. I think there were like close to 60 people that night that you spoke. So it was well done. Very, very well done. Alrighty. Thank you all of us. Thank you all of you for joining us. And until next time, many blessings to all of you.